After my last drawing entitled Night, I wanted to do another drawing that was black paper with white ink, so this is the second one in that series. I usually don't name my pieces until after I see them complete, so this one I am naming, and this is once it's complete. I named this one Solar Cloud. I do like galactic stuff, all the different possibilities out there in the universe and all of the different things, even on our planet. They all are so very intriguing. So finding inspiration out in the stars is always something fun and different and unusual. I recently stumbled across some interesting information, at least for me, where our observable universe looks very similar to the inside of a black hole. So the thought of us being the inside of a black hole is pretty interesting and kind of mind-boggling at the same time. So that's kind of where I'm drawing some of this inspiration from, the observable universe and the things within and the stuff that we can see, all the different galaxies and black holes and quasars and all of that stuff. There's a couple of different YouTube channels that I follow for cosmic information and whatnot, and one of them is Astro Alexandra, and I'll put her YouTube channel in the description below. Back to the drawing, though, I usually plan out my first couple of lines by just passing my hand along the paper to see what feels good or what I see after I do that real quick, because I can kind of get an idea of where I'm going to go and what's going to happen after I put the first couple of lines. These gel pens that I have, they like to work for a certain period of time, and then they kind of get a little gunky and you have to clean them off. So if you go too fast, like what you're seeing here, they just get gunky. They don't lay down any ink and they get real faded. So you have to run them on a piece of scrap paper a few times to get them re-inked. I'm also trying something a little bit new with how I'm editing this video. I watched a creator, another YouTube creator, by Peter Draws, and I'll put his YouTube channel in the description. I watched some of his content, and he does a lot of doodles, and he'll just voice over as he draws. And I would like to kind of do that to make content a little bit easier for me to make and to put out faster. So the more content, the more drawings, the more you'll see me. So it's a win-win for everybody in the end. I've been following Peter on social media and YouTube for 5 or 6 years now, and he's really taken off, and his drawings are so fun. They're just doodles that he turns into these crazy big either landscapes, cityscapes, all sorts of different things. So definitely worthwhile to check out and support other creators like me. I wanted to start this drawing out a little slower as well. I'll speed it up here in a little bit. So we'll go to 400 speed for time lapse. Otherwise this would be a 3-hour video. 3 or 5, I can't remember. But in the end, I wanted to start out here going slow so that we can see the beginning of the process, how I laid things out. And then from there, we'll speed it up so we can see it fast and how it takes shape so quickly. I think I'm also going to start off these videos farther away. I don't know if I want to zoom in as much as I do anymore. It makes it a lot easier to edit. It also makes it a lot easier to see not each and every line, but the shapes take form. And then I don't have to fade in and out as much, which I find maybe a little disorienting. So we'll see how this plays out. I would like some feedback, so any information that you want to give me about if you like this new strategy or not would be greatly appreciated. I wanted this to have a real kind of snaking trail through this black paper to start. And that's what I did. I put that first S-shaped line down on paper, and now I'm going to try to find the best position for my wrist to draw some of these harsher curves. That's one challenge I always find myself getting into, is these curves are really, really tough because you end up pushing and pulling the pen, and with these gel pens. With these gel pens, they clog and then they don't want to roll when you push them. So finding that good angle so that creating art is easier, and also possible can be difficult sometimes. So more or less with this first phase done of getting a little bit of ink onto the paper and kind of figuring out where I want to go from here, I'm going to break it down into little sections where I do one little piece, get a baseline, and then continue on to the next. So in this part, I want to flesh out the initial line so I can get a better idea of what the shape is going to look like. And where it's going to go, how much of the page it's going to fill up, how dense it's going to be. So I try to keep my lines fairly spaced out, and I try to also make it even all the way across the whole piece. So it's not like one part is missing a bit, another part is missing another bit. That just gives me a good baseline for the whole drawing. Oftentimes while I'm drawing, I'll either be watching something, listening to a podcast, listening to some music. I also draw while I'm watching anime with friends on Wednesday nights. That's our night to watch anime from across the states. It's really fun, and I really like drawing while I'm doing that. But it's also a time of a lot of reflection. I've always used art as my way to process, to understand myself a little bit better, and to be able to just sit down and be calm and do these things slowly and methodically. Being an ADHD kid and my mind often races and wanders and does all sorts of things a mile a minute, this is a really good way to occupy my hands and slow down and be able to do the things, the slow things in life. I had a high school art teacher, Mrs. Goody, Michelle Goody, I believe. I think that, thinking back, that's 18 years ago, almost 20 years ago. Yeah, she taught art therapy, and she also went to school for art therapy. So I'm kind of implementing some of that while I'm drawing as well. Shout out to you, Mrs. Goody, if you're listening. I hope you are, because that was always a special time, being able to process some stuff during class. I appreciate it very much. I've sectioned off quite a bit of this, and I've filled in the beginning of this drawing, the top portion of it, really nicely. So from here, I'm going to move on to more of it, and after I get that nice baseline over the whole thing, I'm going to go back in and do more little details here and there. When my hand disappears off of screen, that's every time I have to roll the gel pen on some paper to get it to produce more ink. It's quite often that I have to do that, and it's not annoying, but it's not fun either. So I recommend these pens. I really do. They're by Sakura, but at the same time, gel pens are just more fickle. They're just annoying. I've also switched to a smaller pen tip. I have in these gel pens they sent me, Sakura, when I reached out to them so long ago, they sent me a packet of 3, and so I have 3 different nib sizes. I've got a 1mm, I have a 0.5 millimeter, and I have a 0.3 millimeter. Those are all very, very useful, and I really like using the different sizes to give dimension. So here I'm using the 0.5 millimeter pen tip, and that gives a finer detail to the whole piece. I'm going to correct myself. I just went and looked, and it's 1 millimeter, 0.8 millimeter, and a 0.5 millimeter. So I was using the 0.8 millimeter. I am moving on to the challenging part of this curve. I'm going to break it down into little chunks to make it easier for myself again, so I don't have to do big lines, big shapes in this section here. Again, with the gel pens, they like to clog, so getting a really long curve where you have to push and pull the pen across the paper doesn't always work. Kind of like that. My tape gave way because of all the friction. So it's just they're just different. They're just a pain, but a lovely pain because they are so vibrant. I like to bring my lines to a peak in the middle. So I've got 2 different shapes leading kind of like a feather to a center line, a center point. I kind of like doing that because it gives a fold on either side and it feels really lush and soft. And yeah, I overall like the way it looks. With that section done, now it's time to move on to this big curve. This is a lot sharper curve, but it's a little bit easier to go around this bend because it is so sharp. It's a small hand movement, and I can control the pen a lot easier than if it was a large curve like the one above. I'm going to fill in this spot a little bit more, and I'm going to go on to this little tail end here. And when I do that, I will leave a section where in that tight curve where it's going to come down to a little point, and I'm going to need to fill that in. But that's a harder thing to do, to fill little sections in like that. But sometimes it just kind of happens that way. And I really wanted this bottom portion, this tail portion, to have a certain feel, like a fan, or yeah, it just kind of plumes out a little bit more. And we can see, and I covered it up already, but there was a little tiny mistake where the gel pen decided to stop working for a second, so it didn't lay down enough ink. There's that tight spot that I was talking about that I'll have to fill in a little bit, but I really like how this tail portion has turned out. It's very flat and flowing and lots of dimension. I've gotten this drawing to a point where I like the base. And now I'm going to start moving on to some of the finer details and filling in spots and making things more bumpy and more wavy to kind of give that flowing through the cosmos type feel. I know that's kind of an abstract thought, but like quasars or dust clouds, that sort of thing, that kind of flowing, gathering, very, very ethereal feel. This paper has a different feel from other papers as well. It's a lot more toothy. It has a little more grit to it. So drawing on here is much different than what I'm used to. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just different, and I like it. Changing things up is always a nice spice of life. The base coat of all my lines is usually the most boring. It can give really good direction and a really good starting point, but it's normally the least exciting. Once the little details come along, and I'm more of a details guy. I live for the details, so making the little things really pop and really shine is where I strive and what I like to do. And now that I have that good baseline, I'll start at the bottom and work my way all the way back up to the top, putting that second layer of lines and shapes and everything down on paper. So far, this has been about 13 minutes of watching this. In real time, it's been about almost an hour. It's probably been 45 minutes, 50 minutes of actual drawing time. I do take quite a few little breaks in between. I like to make sure that I don't hurt my wrist. I don't stress my arm or anything like that. This is a lot of keeping my hand in the same position and kind of holding onto the pen very tight, so I can, my wrist and hand get tired very quickly, especially my pinky and my ring finger on my right hand. They get really irritated and tired after a couple hours of this. So I walk away, or I stop and watch or listen to whatever I'm watching or listening to, joke around with friends if it's anime night, so on and so forth. I try to stretch while I'm doing this as well. There's a couple of nerve glides that I like to do to make sure that my hand doesn't cramp up or I'm damaging the nerves or anything like that. And even just walking around with a cat, because I'm always catering to the cats. They're always around me. Picking one of them up and walking around and just being with them takes me out of it for a little bit and helps me relax my hand. This is that section I was talking about, filling it in a few minutes ago. I've gotten to that point where it's time to fill that portion in, and I didn't like how I made it webby in the beginning, but after I added the little detail on the outside of it, a little lump, it really started to take shape and feel better. Oftentimes I'll put ink on paper and realize that the shape that I've just drawn it's not my favorite. I don't like the way it looks, and I just keep moving forward because in the end, I'm going to cover it up with something else that's going to draw attention away from it. So I hardly ever get too hung up on these portions that I don't like or haven't turned out the way that I want them to, that sort of thing. Because I know I can change the way it looks by adding another shape on top. I don't remember at what point during this drawing, but I picked up listening to a podcast that I haven't been listening to for the last 3-4 months. And it's by some of my favorite YouTubers. It's Distractable, and it's with Markiplier and Bob and Wade, and they just kind of joke around and do silly things, and each time is a different, either like little competition between two of them and the other one's the host, or it's like trivia or something like that. They're just three silly boys being silly on the internet, and I really like it. It's a nice reprieve to the world. So shout out to those guys. I'll put a link in the description to their podcast in the description as well. I did a podcast with one of my friends. We had 3 or 4 episodes before it kind of just fizzled. It was hard to keep up with it. There was so much editing on his side. There was extra time and stuff on my side doing graphic design. It wasn't sustainable. But that was back in 2000, I think 19 or 20. Yeah, it's been a few years. It'd be fun to reach back out and do a podcast again, or be part of other podcasts. I've wanted to maybe join other art podcasts that are out there, and I had one episode with Brushwork podcast. She's an old friend from Twitch when I was streaming on Twitch, so I reached out to her back in 2021 last year, end of last year, October of last year, and so we connected, and I did one episode with her about me quitting my job and doing this full time. I'll put a link to her podcast as well, and maybe even the episode that I was in, so that people can find that. I've done a lot of random things. I've been in a lot of different stuff. It's weird to look at back on that now and just see all the different paths that I've taken, all while maintaining the same path. It's a wild ride. Turning the attention back to the drawing for a minute, I think I've stopped using the 1mm pen tip, and I am pretty much only using 0.8 and 0.5 to make finer details. I pretty much always start big and go small with the pen tips. I don't like to work with the bigger ones too long because it fills up the page too quickly, and I like the finer details, the fine, soft wave forms. The drawing right now feels pretty flat to me. It has lots of dimension, and there's a lot of flowing bits to it, but there's not there's not multiple shapes, and there's not a lot of dimension within itself, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm gonna fix that later, and I don't know if I really like it in the end, but it was a fun experiment. So for right now, I'm just gonna fill in the outside of this. The base with lots and lots of little shapes and different little lines here and there. I didn't want this to be too bumpy and lumpy. I really wanted it to have more of a uniform direction and like smoothness to the whole piece. I didn't want it to have so many different little undulating outcroppings on the outside of it that it gets distracting and hard to do the gold ink that I'm going to do in a little bit here. I have been known to not know when to stop drawing, and sometimes the over detail of things can get in the way, and it can start looking a little cluttered or a little too full. So I try to maintain that and check in with the drawing and look at things and take a step back, and overall just make sure that I'm not overfilling too many spots, because I do that a lot. I wanted to try something a little bit different for the tails of these two ends, and I didn't want to make it just end abruptly. I wanted it to have some flow outside of the page, so I put just a little bit of that into this tail, the end of this piece. This is something I haven't done too much of, if at all, where I just leave a couple of lines or just a little bit that goes off the edge of the paper. Normally, if I have a piece that goes to the edge and beyond the frame of the paper, I continue the whole pattern out that far. So it sometimes having that go all the way off the page, it can look incomplete or it leaves too much to the imagination. So having just a little play outside of the bounds of the paper is good. I contemplated on how I wanted this gold to be on the page for so long, whether I wanted to try doing something with a pen or with something else, and I ended up going with this metallic paint that I have. I think it might be a cross between a paint, acrylic, and like an ink because it's very very liquidy. But it has wonderful gold shine, as we can see here. So I'm trying something completely different from what I normally do, and I'm putting this using a paintbrush. Fancy that, a different tool, a paintbrush, putting this down on paper and just feathering it out from the shape to kind of give a shadow, a little hazy, fuzzy shadow. Each and every time I take my hand away from the paper, it's to put more ink onto the brush, and it's quite frequent. And I have to, it's dry brushing, so I'm not trying to put a ton down on paper. So I load up the paintbrush and then I feather it out, and then I go to the drawing and I feather it out some more. So it's just a lot of back and forth. And I apologize. I see now during editing that the whole drawing is, or the table is shaking, and it's giving this weird like choppy bit to it as I put down this ink on the page. So it's just a little wobbly looking, I think. While I was experimenting putting this down on paper, I started to think of like old man's beard, like a moss that grows from trees in the south, and in space how there's clouds of dust, just massive stellar clouds of stuff. And that's kind of the feel that I wanted to give, was like this very cloudy, hazy, but overall very defined shape. I've been trying something new as well. Every day before I go and make or repair jewelry, I try to draw for maybe an hour or so. It's a nice, in the morning, I find that I have the most inspiration and the most creative feeling. So right after I wake up, I'll do my morning stuff. I'll eat some food and stretch, and then I'll go to my studio and draw for a little bit. And it's been a really nice way to start the day. Very very slow. It's methodical. It can just put me in a good mood for the rest of the day. And I've also come to the realization that this is quote unquote my job. And anytime I get to create, anytime that I get to record me drawing, is me working. And it's also me creating. So it's this wonderful blend of passion and work that I can really, really get behind. And then I can segment out my day into the normal activities and whatnot. So it really helps break up my day into these manageable portions. That's one thing that I struggle with the ADHD, is like, I'm going to go do this thing for 8 hours or 5 hours or even an hour, and it sounds daunting, and it's too much. It's too much for me to ever be able to do that in one fell swoop. So it's nice to be able to segment my day into these manageable sections where it's like an hour, 20 minutes, 2 hours, something like that. And if I let myself go and just continue to create, it's not a big deal. I can just do that and push things around and be really fluid with my schedule. It's nice to be able to halfway trick my brain into being able to do the things that I want to do. In the past, when I've used this gold ink, it's been too thin, and it doesn't show up well enough on a white piece of paper. But against this black paper, it shows up so well and so brightly and vividly. It's really nice, and I'm glad that I bought it so many years ago. I think I've had this little vial of gold ink for close to 8 years, maybe 10 years even. Exploring tools and different things, different supplies in different ways is a lot of fun. And it can be a really interesting challenge too. Like when things don't react the way that you want them to, it can turn into really fun little mistakes or little excursions. Right about here, I noticed while I was drawing that I put a little bit of gold ink way out there, a little mistake on the very right hand side. So here in a second, I'm going to go through and cover that up. But little things like that happen all the time. Little mistakes, little smudges, just things happen. I've slowed the video down from 400 times speed to normal, so we can look at how I fix this in real time. It's a fairly easy fix. It's just putting a little bit more white ink down on paper and extending the pattern out to cover it up. So it's not a ending of drawing type of mistake, but it's definitely a little hiccup. And those happen. I've started out with a little bit of extra shading, and next I'm going to go through and I'm going to build the pattern out to cover it up. And in the end, it doesn't cover it all up, but it disguises it well enough that I don't think anybody would notice unless I pointed it out. Now that I've pointed out where my little mistake is, I'm going to kind of draw out where I'm going to put this line and how I'm going to start this and what shape is going to be made to begin with. It's going to cover up a little bit of my experiment pattern out the edge of the page, but it's worth it. It does the job. I don't make a lot of smudges anymore. I used to make a lot and get ink all over the page and figure out how to do that, but I've kind of learned how to cover it up, how to move around it and make it part of the overall character of the piece. And it just takes time and practice to get to that point. And also just being okay with mistakes as they happen is also something hard to be okay with in the end. Looking at it now, it's pretty highlighted still, but as soon as this one line goes over it, it all just kind of disappears. Even though there's still a little metallic shine to it that you can kind of see through it, it definitely covers it up well. Now I have to go back through and fill in this bottom portion with solid white ink so that it'll blend a little bit nicer. And blending the old and the new is never super difficult, but if you don't do it right, it stands out again very easily and very readily. So it's important to go back and fill in some of the details and make things blend nicely. My noggin has been in so many of these shots as well. And I apologize that I keep sneaking my head in here by accident, but sometimes that just happens. I get lost in the drawing and I don't really pay attention to what my screen says, and my hair sneaks into it. But here I am going back in and filling in these details, blending things nicely, and it all looks wonderful in the end. I've done one fixing mistakes tutorial, and this is kind of a halfway second, a nice little addition to that. I'll put a link to that video in the description as well. Here's that section all covered up, blended. It feels complete. It looks nice. It's all smooth and everything. So I think even though I don't like that it's there, I will probably never remember that it's there after this. I forgot to record a small section of the next portion of this drawing where I make a second shape that goes underneath the initial cloud, the initial line segment. I felt like the drawing wasn't quite complete or it didn't have enough dimension, so this is where I start adding extra shapes. I don't really like how it turned out in the end with these extra bits, but we're here now and it's where it is. It turned out just fine, in my opinion, in the end, but I wish that I had thought about it a little bit more. Maybe instead of using more white ink, I could have gone back in with another color or more gold to give it a little separation while still being kind of the same thing. I can't knock it too hard without complimenting the extra shapes a little bit. I do really like how there is more dimension. The lines and shapes go underneath each other, and it draws your eye to like foreground, middle ground type of thing. It feels good. It gives it a little extra something without being crazy. Sometimes crazy is good, and I just didn't apply it this time. So this is about 30 minutes into this video, and the overall drawing has taken me about 3 hours, I think. Pretty close to that. 3 to 4, somewhere in there. 3 or 4 hours may not be a long time, but if each and every drawing takes me about that is a lot in the end. And each and every line takes me anywhere from a few seconds to 10 to 20 seconds, depending on how long the line is. So it all adds up. It's an interesting way to view time is by all these little lines and how many hours, how much of my life I've spent doing it. When I was first starting to really experiment with my art back in 2012 and 2000 through 2014, finding style and finding how I wanted to do things, there was a couple of drawings that would take me close to 30 hours, 20 to 30 hours to complete. I've summed my style up and I've gotten a lot faster with it over time, but to think about putting a whole day and a little bit into a piece, a day and a quarter into a piece is insane. I know people can work on pieces for hundreds of hours to make them super realistic, or just the sheer size of them can make hundreds and hundreds of hours. So at some point in my life in the near future, I'd like to spend many hours doing one very large piece. It'd be really cool. I've even purchased a ream of Bristol board, very big piece of Bristol board. It's like, I want to say 10 feet by 40 inches. Cutting that down and getting it to lay flat has proven a challenge. I've ironed it, I've done different things to it, and in the end it leaves it warped, it does goofy things. I just need a space big enough to be able to flatten that humongous piece of paper. And I'm not trying to flatten the whole thing all at once, because that would just be insane. I'm doing sections of like 40 inches by 3 feet or something like that to make it a little bit easier, but it's still a huge challenge. Speaking of how much time and how many pieces I've done, I recently went through and I have 4 portfolios, mostly complete with drawings in them. So there's, I believe, 40 in each available, and most of them, there's one that's like half full. So I've got probably 120 pieces, close to at least over 100 in back stock that I've accumulated over the years. It's really fun to go through that art history of my own. I've backed up the drawing a little bit, the view a little bit, so that we can see the whole picture of the piece. It's really, I don't mind this little wavy guy underneath. It's very fun and it's very different. I just wish I had incorporated it sooner rather than trying to add it later, because getting this to look right with the gold ink is a little goofy. I also wanted to make the shape split and turn into a couple different little sections here and there to really make it pop, make it look, give it more dimension, more things going on, not just a flat image. I also knew pretty much as soon as I started putting this ink down on the paper that I couldn't add more gold to it. It would make it look goofy. It would blend it too much together, which is why I wish I had chosen another color or something else instead of just white, because it's too much of the same thing. If it was gold ink, if it was silver, it would stand out different, but putting it all together like this is not the best. I still like it. I still think I did a good job. I just wish I had done things a little bit different. I am still really impressed with how the white ink stands out so nicely, so beautifully against the black paper. It just gives such a amazing contrast and such amazing dimension. And you don't need to do too much. There's not a lot that I had to do to give that amazing contrast and definition. And by without doing too much, I mean just putting a few thousand lines down on a piece of paper. That's all. Nothing big. Something simple. I knew that I wouldn't just be putting one of these shapes down. I would have to put another one to really make it vibe nicely, make things look good. And now that I've run my hand over the paper a couple of times to see where I'm going to go, it's time to put more ink down on paper. And I really wanted to give these two shapes a very similar feel, where it has like a bulbous end, a very, very, using that curvature to make it different from the overall piece. That's the separation that I was talking about and trying to achieve. So that's my common theme between those two shapes is this curved end to really set it apart. And again, if I was able to plan this beforehand, I would maybe make it connect to the original shape, the original S shape, and have that be able to branch into these different shapes, different flowing pieces to complete the piece just a little bit more. But I didn't have that forethought, and that's okay. That's how these pieces roll sometimes. And it's all just an experiment to see throw it against a wall and see what sticks. Having these twist over and under each other gives really, really good dimension. I've used that in the past, and I experimented with it quite a bit, maybe 2 years ago, just to see what was possible and how it changed the piece and what I could do to make things more dimensional. And that's more or less where I landed, was just adding more lines. I had a conversation with my mom the other night. She lives in Canada now. She lived here in the town that I grew up for, I think close to 50 years. But she is in Canada, and I talked to her the other day, and she said that she wanted to see me run around in the backyard with the cats. I let them outside every once in a while for some supervised outside time so that they can smell grass and see some bugs and chase things and just be a cat outside again. And I was thinking that would be kind of a fun thing to do sometime. Show them outside, explore in the yard, being cute. Is that something that all of you would be interested in seeing the outside time with cats? It's really adorable. Amaro, she's mostly blind. She just runs around the yard like a little bunny. She does little bunny hops, and it's so very cute. But I could do a whole video on that, a whole 30-minute video on how cute they are outside. So if that's something that you would like to see, let me know in the comments. I can always add it to my list of things of content to create. The cats are such a huge part of my life, and large part of my drawing is also with them. Even in the studio right now, as I'm doing this voiceover, I've got 2 cats in the studio with me, enjoying just being near me. I've always got at least one of them near me. No matter where I am in the house, there's at least one cat following me around. It'd be interesting deciding how to structure that too, how to show everybody, how to show you guys their personalities, what we do, our routines and stuff. It'd be fun, but it would be definitely a challenge. I feel like I'd need a cameraman to be able to do that, because a lot of times I'm interacting with them and holding them and doing stuff with them. So setting up a tripod or something like that. But yeah, let me know if that's something that you all would like to see in the future. Turning back to the drawing for a little bit, I wanted to give it more dimension still and do the same kind of twisty crisscross that I did to the bottom piece, the first piece. So I'm making another strand that breaks off of the original shape and continues on and around itself. Because when in doubt, of course, more lines. The 2 shapes that I've added are facing different directions as well, so that's also helping me with some of the dimensional issues from the overall piece. Gives it a little bit different direction, gives it a little more dimension, again, more dimension, but just gives it different directions to the whole piece, and that I like that. It's not all one way. It doesn't have that same S shape throughout the whole thing, drawing your eye down to the bottom. It's different directions. I oftentimes jump back and forth between sections of a drawing as well, going from A to B just to switch things up, and sometimes I fill in a portion of it too much that I need to fill in other sections, and just balancing things out, making it look correct, and at least correct in my mind, how I want it to be in the end. I am really enjoying looking at all this gold ink on this paper while editing. It's a lot of fun to see the different shades that it gives and how the light plays in different spots on the drawing. Adding metallic gold to a lot of my drawings recently has been a really fun and enjoyable adventure. Just seeing what can be done, how it can add so many different layers to the piece, and what feelings it can bring out. I still have some pens that I haven't even touched. They've just been living in the box because I've been enjoying what I have so far. I got more pens, more markers, metallic ones from Sakura. They make, and I didn't know this, they make some metallic fine line pens, which is really, really cool. And I'm excited to use those at some point, but I didn't want to do that just yet. I've played around with using some silver in my pieces too, but even that I haven't touched a lot on. In this part, I decided that I wanted to connect these two. I felt like there was too much of a disconnect between the two shapes, so I'm planning out with my finger here the path that I want to lay down ink in. I find that that's the most common way that I plan my next move, is by either pointing or just using the pen and not even touching the paper, just kind of tracing out in space where I want it to go and what I want it to do. It really helps me plan things because I can kind of see it in my mind's eye. I made a rule, like a lot of times when I draw, I make these little rules for myself that I stick by, and I didn't want the gold ink to be interfered with the new white ink that I'm putting down on the paper. So it's just a little thing that I have to keep track of. So I split the ink in and around some of these spots to abide by that rule. And from here, it's, again, when in doubt, fill it in with lines. If you like my content, don't forget to like and subscribe. YouTube will pay me for the videos that I make, so the more time that you watch, the better. You don't have to go support me on other platforms or anything like that. All you need to do is watch this, put it on in the background, and forget that it's on. That's the best way to help me get ahead in this YouTube life. Go check out my website as well. I've got a lot of original pieces up there. For a recent show or gallery that I'm in, I had to put them all up there with descriptions and stuff like that. So I'm still working on the descriptions as of right now, but I had to get them on there so that people could see how much they were and all the details, size, and everything like that. In the description, I've put down a list of the tools and materials that I've used, as well as all the podcasts and other artists that I've referenced. Or if there's other artists that you recommend for me, leave them in the comments below, or if you yourself are an artist, also comment and let me know whether your style is similar to mine or just whatever. I'd love to find more artists out there in this YouTube community. I've been on the lookout as of recently a little bit more for collaborations that I can do with other artists out there, whether it be jumping on a podcast that's just starting up, or being part of a video, like doing a background to a piece or something like that. I would love to be part of it. So if there's anybody out there that's looking for some collaboration work, let me know. There's a lot of moving parts to my life, so I'm not the best at getting back to people right away, but I do always appreciate anybody that comments or sends me an email or anything like that. I think this portion of the video is the worst for me, leaning in, and you can see my wispy hair. Yeah, so many lean-ins. And oftentimes I don't catch it until after I've recorded, so there's no going back. So this is what we get. It's almost kind of like my MO at this point to have some sort of lean in and see my hair at some point. It's just how it goes. the way that I have my camera set up to capture stuff, I move it around and I forget where it is and what it can see and everything. So I apologize again for having my head in this shot so much, but nothing I can do about it now except laugh about it. I really liked connecting these two shapes together. I do think it detracts from the overall piece in the end, but I really do like how the splits and the different movement to it kind of contradicts the overall S shape of the original piece. And I like that. I like the direction. And these are the finishing touches. After this, it's all done. It's been, I think overall it's been about 5 hours that I've shortened down to almost 48 minutes, just shy. So things, this gets compressed quite a bit, going from normal speed down to about, or up to about 400% speed. So it really, it makes these more palatable and able to do in one sitting. I have thought about putting the full form, the 4 hours, 5 hours, whatever this may be, onto Patreon and just let it sit there, because some people might want to have this in the background. They just wouldn't have any of my voice. I record all of these without recording any sound to make it easier in the end. So it would just be silent the whole time. 5 hours of silence. I wanted to have this last little leg of the drawing be in real time, just to start and finish it in a similar way. And it's nice to see all these lines go down in real time. This is the finished piece. I like the way it turned out. I really like the gold. I am a little disappointed with some of my choices along the way, but it's a fun experiment. None of these pieces are exactly the same. They're all a little bit different here and there, and the little experiments that I tried here and there are really nice. I enjoyed them. And again, like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. Leave comments, push all the buttons, do all the YouTube things. The name of this piece is Solar Cloud. I didn't come up with it until the end, but it just kind of gives that kind of dust out in space feel. Look at that shine. The gold is so nice against the black paper. It shows up so well. So does the white. It's just a really striking contrast of colors on the paper. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you in the next one.